really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard. Which is what, seriously speaking, is all about. On the show today, I have an interesting 1-hour conversation, but I've broken it in two. You know how it is, you start a conversation and you don't have enough time to finish it up. This is somebody I had pursued for a long time, simply because she's not one person that you are ambivalent about. You either love her or you hate her. However, when she became the champion for the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, a lot of people just didn't wonder, what is in it for her? That's what they wondered. So let me introduce you to Oby Ezekwesili. She's a chartered accountant, and she's a co-founder of Transparency International. She served as a federal minister of solid minerals and also education during the second-term presidency of General Olusegun Obasanjo, retired. Since then, she has served as vice president of the World Bank's Africa divisions. That was between 2007 and 2012. In recent times, she's been advising a lot of African governments on economic matters. However, she remains the champion for the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. While I apologize that I'm not wearing my badge today, by the time I finished having my conversation with her, I became a strong advocate of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, even though, as at the time of our recording then, 21 girls had been released to relief of everybody who was involved. But it was a very emotional 1-hour interview for me, especially because at the end of the day, I had the privilege of going to see the people who have been campaigning for the girls to be found. I present to you my 2-part interview with Oby Ezekwesili. Welcome, madam, to Seriously Speaking.
Thank you, Adeswa.
I'm very glad to have you, you know. I've wanted to have you on this show for the past maybe 12 months. And you're one of the reasons I said I'm going to record this show in Abuja. Just find out when is she going to be there. Find us time and we'll record it. So I'm really very glad to be with you.
I must say that I am glad that we're able to do this now. And well done. You've done so much in terms of issues that concern women and society in general.
Mm-hmm. The thing about why I wanted to speak with you is I sit down, I've interviewed before, you know, on Today's Woman, on One-on-One in the past, and I've spoken. For me, I come out inspired by the level of knowledge you have on any topic you have to talk about, more than anything else, that you have absolutely control and total control of what you're talking about. And then for the past 1 year or so, I've had you agitate, more than 1 year, agitate for the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen anybody that's been so abused on social media, but has refused to leave the social media. So tell me about how your journey into the campaign started.
Well, you know, our Chibok girls were abducted on the midnight, on the 14th of April, midnight of the 14th April, 2014. It was on the 15th afternoon that the news broke. Yeah. And I saw it on my timeline because I do follow BBC. And when I saw that news saying more than 100 girls abducted from a secondary school in Borno, Nigeria, I thought, no, this cannot possibly happen. I'm sorry, you know, what's this? And so I retweeted that with a question saying, is this verified? And after I'd done that, then I waited and I said, wait a minute, it's BBC. BBC has quality control, so it would be very difficult for BBC to have put up this story. And as simultaneously as I was thinking that and getting really agitated that it actually might be true, I began to get responses.
Where were you at that point in time?
I was because
you were still abroad.
I was in between countries. No, I was, you know, because I was working with, I had just finished an assignment in Guinea-Conakry and heading home. And so for me, it was a shocking piece of news. And I decided that I was not going to step away from it. I was going to probe on what was being done about that story. The reason that I made that decision was that 2 months before that particular episode, there had been the killing of the schoolboys in a federal government college, Boni Yadi, a school that I knew very well as Minister of Education. As a federal government college, it had been one of the weakest ones. And so when we were trying to reform the federal government colleges, we were it was to be twinned with the King's College. So King's College Old Boys were to run their school as a school management organization. And because they would get that particular right, they were going to support directly the federal government college, Boni Yadi, as a weaker federal government college.
You married them.
So that's twinning, you know? So when those boys were slaughtered and then burnt and the recordings put on the internet, I thought, I started speaking about it, and I said the federal government needed to demonstrate to the terrorists that this is a turning point in this war. You can't do this to our children. No, you can't. You can't get away with this. So I was very agitated at that time, and I made sure to be vocal about it, to say, do something, show a signal, don't let them get away with this. But nothing happened. Rather, what happened was that we celebrated centenary and invited the world. Within the period that 29 children had been slaughtered and their charred remains were being tossed around, I was so devastated. And I said to my husband after a few days of being on the issue, I sound like I'm just crazy. No, you know, this hasn't made any difference to the actions of the government. And, you know, and my husband said, baby, you've tried, you know? And I moved on to.
You started the campaign, the word became viral, and you became identified with this, and you also became vilified for it, remember? Up until today, people wonder, what is her own? First, it was that you were looking for a position. Now, I don't know what it is they're saying, because you ended up not getting the position. So why are you doing this?
You know, I don't even dignify that the last portion of what you said.
About position, yeah.
Please, I'm trying to get a position of something that I had done more than a decade ago. Come on, how does that make sense to anyone? I mean, it's too silly to be an issue. You see, when we did the social media advocacy for Chibok girls, from that 23rd, when that hashtag Bring Back Our Girls became prevalent in the social media space, nothing. Still, the government didn't respond or react in any way. It took a march on the 30th of April, inspired by Hadiza Bala Usman, who sort of had reached out to quite a number of people and said, you know, starting with Miriam Ways, saying, oh, it was necessary for there to be a physical march for our Chibok girls, because that way the people will know that, these are real people. And so I was part of the co-conveners of that march of the 30th of April. And you know, by default, the leadership of that march fell on me. And many other cities, Lagos, Osogbo, Benin, many cities, Kano, and then New York, DC, London, various groups said, we also will march in solidarity with these girls. And so we did that march. And at the end of that march of that day, it rained cats and dogs when we marched from the Unity Fountain to the National Assembly and insisted on speaking to the leadership of the National Assembly, who couldn't help it, but they came out, and they also were soaked in the rain. And we had that meeting, and they promised that they were going to take up the matter with the then president.
But do you know that people doubt, or doubted, even still doubt, that those girls were actually missing? Some people doubted.
You know, at this particular stage, at this I concluded that anyone who holds on to that doubt would hold on to it because they choose to. They could easily find the parents whose daughters have been missing. And I look at it from the perspective that it is the worst kind of inhumanity for you to be in the comfort of your own family life with your daughters and to judge parents whose children went to school and were taken, and to look at them and imagine that they are acting a script. It's unbelievable.
Can I give you some of the reasons people give? How is it that about 200 girls were sitting for an exam in a school where we know enrollment of girls in school is very low?
Well, which means that people haven't even bothered to just do basic knowledge, just basic fact finding. Do you know that the government under which these girls were abducted has instituted a presidential verification team concerning our Chibok girls, the Brigadier Sabo Committee, and that they presented a report that was accepted by that government? It was that report that organized the data concerning the girls, that 276 girls were actually abducted. And the reason that you had that number was that it was not just that school fielding candidates for exams, that it was an amalgam of children from many other local governments, but all of them stationed in that school because that was where they considered to have relative peace to be able to have an exam. Remember that schools were already closed, all closed in Borno State, but that they said they guaranteed a semblance of safety and security. And so all of the people taking school start in the districts around that particular part of Borno State were put together to take the exam. So these were not just all classmates from one school. So if you had read the report, and I recommend that people should read the report, and I actually think that the injustice that's been done is in not publishing that report. But the summary of the presentation of that committee by the previous government under which those girls were abducted showed clearly that there are girls who went to school to take their exams and they never went back home. And that these girls are not some phantom, story, because there are parents, their mothers, their daughters, their mothers and their moms, and their fathers and their siblings. There are their cousins, their uncles, who are saying, where are our daughters? Where are our nieces? Where are our siblings? Can it possibly be? One of the things that I have said to people who are cynical about all of this is, let us even, for the sake of, academic contest, say, okay, maybe you do have a point here. You have reason to doubt, the abduction. Whew. Are you saying that these girls sat down and said, come and carry us? Yes, we are part of whatever people insinuate could have happened. Did innocent young women who went to school to get an education, did they also say, we're available for your plot, take us? How can a society, the rest of the world, shocked that we even have that conversation, that there are people amongst us who continue to say Chibok girls is a scam. The rest of the world, they look at us in amazement.
If the rest of the world doesn't doubt and we doubt, and we always doubt, what are the implications for the kind of people that we are and for our growth as a nation? Well, it's indicative of the fact that we are yet a country, not a nation. Thank you very much, Ma, for being my guest. I appreciate it. I wish I could do 10 hours with you, but there will be other opportunities.
Thank you.